Welcome to our Introduction to Coaching course. I'm JC and I'm on the Learning and Development team, and I will be leading you through the session today. So what you can expect out of this session is to define what coaching is and examine coaching best practices that can be implemented in your day-to-day role. Also identify when to use coaching methods to enable team members' growth and development, and then practice how to apply a coaching framework during future discussions. So what is coaching? Coaching is really about helping others help themselves. It's not really about giving advice, instruction, or telling someone what to do. It's kind of leading someone to that. So really what you can do is focus on the future and identify where the coachee wants to be and what they want to achieve, and then help them clarify a pathway from where they are currently to where they want to be in the future, and enable the coachee to make informed choices based on deeper insights and also helping them along the way. So with that, we're gonna jump into a breakout activity. Y'all will have 10 minutes together. You'll be in groups of probably about 4. So first, introduce yourselves, get to know each other a little bit. We will go back to breakout groups later in the session and you'll be in the same one. So make sure you get to know who you're in your groups with now. And then in your groups, discuss when you hear the word coaching, what does it mean to you? And then if you have one, share an example of when someone coached you to help you achieve a career aspiration. What did they say to you? How did it help you focus on the future? And also, if you could nominate someone in your group to report back when we're discussing as a larger group, that'd be great. On the agenda, there's a spot where you can put their name. And then when we go through the groups, I can call on them specifically to share. So with that, I will get you into breakout rooms here. All right. You should be prompted to join your room. All right. I think everyone should be back now. So, oh, everyone should definitely be back now. So group 1, do you have anything you want to share with the larger group? I don't see anyone nominated, but it's Magdalena, Rebecca, Shem, and Sophie.
I could speak unless Sophie wants to, or someone else. But we kind of talked a little bit about the difference between, especially at the end, about mentoring versus coaching, and how mentoring might be more of a subject matter kind of thing, whereas coaching is really helping you discover truths for yourself about what's going on. The coaching is much more effective when you when the person realizes something instead of just being kind of taught something.
Yeah, great point. And it's definitely more fulfilling on the coachee side to, be led to a decision or like come to the conclusion on your own versus have it directed by someone else. Great point. Group 2, Andrew, Christian, Haley, Kelly. Anyone want to share?
I can share unless somebody else wanted to.
Go for it, Christian.
So one of the things I think we all agreed on was that when one of the most effective tools that we found for coaching is asking questions of the person that we're coaching, leading them to the things that we're trying to show them through their own discovery, through answering the questions rather than just lecturing them. So that way it's a collaborative approach, and it also is that whole inception idea, right? An idea you come up with yourself is far more insidious than the one that somebody else teaches you. So we all agreed that was something we found helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Michael Walker, do you want to share what group 3 discussed?
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was probably the most interesting thing that was talked about was that sometimes coaching is not just helping a person reach their potential, but pointing out potential that a person doesn't notice before. And especially when you're working in a team, that can be really helpful to point out how somebody's strengths might complement the other members of the team and how their weaknesses might be made up by other people in the team. And also, it doesn't have to be related to career goals or anything. You can receive and give coaching in pretty much any aspect in life. So
Awesome. Great point. Yeah, it doesn't have to just be about work. It can be about anything. Group 4, Victor, do you want to share?
Sure. So primarily, I would say that we don't know much what coaching specifically is. One question there was like that: what's the difference between mentorship and coaching? Is coaching about a specific coaching session and that's how it's done, or what's the process around that? And then we still try to come up with our own idea what it might be. One thing there was that probably there are different types of coaching, like when somebody who is a manager of yours or not, and in these aspects. And personally, it was my case where I heard that coaching is more about asking questions that lead the coachee to the answer, that others mentioned here as well. But we are not sure about this, whether that was true or not, because my personal experience with coaches, mostly from sport and even outside of that, that I consider to be coaches, is that it was not through questions. Another thing that we see here is that the coach helps to reach a goal, and it's mostly about the process, that how to reach that goal. And again, we found some ideas in sports that it might sometimes mean that they push us harder than we would push ourselves. Sometimes it might mean that they would just say that this is time to rest because that's how you can get prepared to the competition or whatever. And it seems that the coach is not that immersed in the activity as the coach is, so that's why they can help. And that was it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Group 5, Angelo, Sam, Stephen, Terry, anyone want to share?
I can go unless Stephen wants to. I know he did the typing. So I think we echoed a lot of the other things some of the other groups have said around questions being really important for coaching, more so than just providing like explicit direction or pushing people one way or the other. And that it was actually hard. I know Stephen mentioned it's a hard mindset to get into when you're asked a question to not just give an answer. So I thought that was like an interesting comment that was made. We also, I thought it was interesting that none of us felt like we had like coaches that were like formal coaches, but that we had felt maybe that some of us had been coached informally over our careers. And so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. I had a group 6, but there was no group 6 here. So, okay. Awesome. Thanks everyone for sharing. That was really helpful to hear your perspectives. Let me share my screen so you can see the slides again. So how do coaches really do what they do? And they do this by, like a lot of you said, asking powerful questions to deepen learning or insight, challenging the coachee's thought process and limiting beliefs. So I think someone brought up, you know, not only the potential that you see, but like potential that you may have that you didn't know. Helping and your coachee recognize their own strengths and untap their potential again, and then encouraging your coachee to move to action on the choices that they've made, and holding your coachee accountable for the actions they have committed to is another big piece of coaching. So we have this like diagram thing. There's telling and asking on the vertical axis and directing and empowering on the horizontal one. So the different hats that you can wear kind of vary. So the first one that's in the bottom left is the boss hat, and that's, you know, being directive, assigning tasks to team members. So the first thing you need to do is this, then this. The teacher hat is really about passing your knowledge and expertise to grow someone else's skills. So best to check the handbook, teaching people how to do things on GitLab, things like that. And the mentor hat is sharing advice and giving guidance from your own experience. So here's what I found is useful in this situation. And then you have the coach hat, which is the most asking questions, and the most empowering, which is kind of helping people get to their own solutions. And you can do that by saying things like, tell me more about what you think you need to do and what can I do to help you achieve that. And yeah, just because you go into a conversation wearing one hat doesn't mean you can switch. So maybe you go in as a teacher wearing a teacher hat, you can always switch to a coach hat or vice versa. And then deciding what hat to wear, some questions that you can ask yourself are, is this the right kind of topic for coaching? Is it the right time? Is there a skill or knowledge gap that the coachee has? Also, super important, is this person open to being coached? Because maybe they aren't at a point where they're open to that. And then what does a person need from me in the moment? Do they need me to direct them? Do they need more mentoring, or do they need more coaching? So a nice model to use when coaching is the GROW coaching model. It is an acronym. So the G stands for goal. So identify the goals to drive success. And you can do that by asking questions of the coachee, like what are their goals? And then reality, discuss the current state and also what barriers exist for them reaching the goals. Options, explore options for moving forward. Again, I think this includes a lot of questioning the coachee on what they think the options are. And then way forward, so agree on specific actions and a plan to achieve those, and also checking back in with them and making sure that they are moving forward with those as well. So,
is it okay if you ask questions in between?
Yeah, sure. What's your question?
Yeah, the question would be that is coaching always, let's say, a formal setup so that I know that I am being coached or I'm coaching someone, or is just the way of approaching another person?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't always think it has to be formal, but I think it kind of goes back to this slide and like deciding what hat to wear. So like understanding if the person is open to being coached, I think is really important. But I don't think it needs to be super formal. Josh, do you have anything to add? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I think you hit it right on the head there. I think it's about being able to recognize when to switch to different styles, different hats in this case, between the teacher, the mentor, the boss, and the coaching hat. But I think, like, as leaders and team members, I think there's always opportunities to switch to that coaching kind of mindset by asking team members, questions about where to go in the future.
Awesome. Thanks. Great question. So we're going to go over just an example of the GROW model in practice. So the scenario, excuse me, is that Crystal has recently transitioned to a new role at GitLab. She's missed several important deadlines and is now feeling pressure from management to perform better. She sets up time with her former manager for a coaching discussion. So has asked for a coaching discussion, and then we'll apply the GROW model to help navigate the future. So for goal, this is identifying the goal. Some questions that can be asked are, what are you looking to achieve? What do you want to get out of this meeting? How does this fit into the bigger picture of your career? Reality, what is the current situation? So what resources do you have to help you? Are there internal or external obstacles that are stopping you from achieving the goal? I would say, right now with COVID and everything, there's probably a lot of external obstacles happening. So like maybe someone is trying to do their full-time job and also teach their kids remote learning at home. So I think that's a really important piece. And then options. So what are the options to move forward? How would you tackle this if time wasn't a factor? What are some things we can do to improve? and what option do you like best out of what you've come up with. And way forward, so what will you do now? When will you do it? Who can help you? Can I help you in some way? So this is just how you can apply the GROW model. And with that, we will go into breakout groups. So you'll be in the groups you were again, and you'll have 12 minutes. There will be 3 scenarios on the next slide that we'll run through. And then as a group, discuss how you can apply the GROW coaching model to the scenario and how you can coach the team member in the scenario, what you would say to help them focus on a plan. And then when we come back, be prepared to discuss what you talked about in your group. You can nominate the same person who shared last time or a new person, but that will be on the agenda. You can take notes there. So the scenarios. Scenario 1 is a peer sends you a direct Slack message saying that they need to talk. You jump on a Zoom call and they tell you they didn't get promoted and are thinking of leaving GitLab. How can you coach the team member through this? Scenario 2, one of your peer mentions that their manager is very harsh through written communications and comes off as cold in Zoom calls. This surprises you as you're close with the manager that they're talking about. You decide to coach your peer to find steps they can take to resolve. What can you say in the coaching conversation? And then scenario 3, you leave a Zoom meeting where one of your peers just gave a presentation on an important topic. It didn't go well and they ask for feedback and what could be done better. How can you coach them? So with that, I will go ahead and open the rooms again. And you'll have 12 minutes. We'll see you in a little bit. Everyone should be back now. So yeah, I have a debrief slide, but I'm not going to share it again so that we can see each other while we're talking here. So group 5, would y'all want to share the scenario you talked about and what conclusion you came to?
I can go this time. So we picked scenario 2 with the scenario where someone has a manager that they perceive as harsh when you actually have a close relationship with that manager and have a very different opinion of them. And one of the things we talked about up front is it's important to try to, even though it's easy to get a little bit defensive of that manager, it's important to kind of take a seat back from that a little bit and take their perspective so that you can help them improve that relationship. So some of the questions we came up with just following the GROW formula were things like, what does that relationship, what are your expectations for that relationship? What's that ideal relationship look like? And then in the reality, we felt like it was really important to get to specifics because liking somebody or not can be really subjective. So just asking them questions to help understand exactly what's going on and help them think through like the details of, what's driving that perception that they're viewing. And then options, we talked about just helping them think through what they can do and helping them think through what resources are available. It's really tempting to be like, oh, the handbook has all this stuff available to you, but trying to lead them to that answer in more of a coach style rather than just directly telling them. And then finally, with the way forward, we mostly ran out of time for that one, but just talked about helping them make some concrete plans to work towards that, time frames and specific next steps.
Awesome. That was really great. Great questions that you asked them. And you made a really great point about even though you may be friends with that, the manager they're talking with, kind of like removing that from the situation and being subjective is really important. So awesome. Group 4, Andy, do you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, we picked the first situation where a peer didn't got promoted and was thinking about leaving GitLab. And yeah, we would start with the goal by asking for more details, like why did they expect a promotion, and where did they want to get promoted, and what promotion means to them, or why they wanted to be promoted. Like, is it because of money, changing roles, or acknowledgement? And yeah, and then for reality would ask, why did they thought they deserve a promotion, and what's the relationship with the manager, because maybe they didn't recognize it. Was there anything? Was there anyone else who got promoted instead of them? Did they receive any feedback? And or yeah, basically in general, why weren't you promoted if you expected? And yeah, and then exploring the options. So what to do next? I think also part of the scenario was that they think they wanted to leave GitLab. Like, maybe this is a valid option if they don't feel happy. So like, do you think you would reach your goal somewhere else? I think the next it doesn't really make sense. Like, if you thought you deserve a promotion, how could you present your performance better? Because if you deserve it, why wasn't it recognized? And how could you position yourself better for promotion? And did you have any? Did you have these thoughts for a long time, or is it just like a quick reaction? Because maybe if they think about quitting, maybe this like an emotional reaction, it would be better to cool down a little bit and think about it again. And yeah, for the way forward, would ask them, how can I help you find a better position within GitLab? Or do you have a timeline for your promotion, to push them a little bit more for action? Like, when did you want to get promoted? And then maybe figure out a plan with them, like step by step, how to get promoted.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Those are really, really great points. Group 3, Devin, do you want to share?
Yeah, so we had some good conversations here. One of the first things that came up is how a definition of a peer can be really different. It might be somebody you work very closely with, or somebody who you just kind of casually know through work. And that this can be a really awkward situation to be put in when there's no reporting relationship. But just being willing to listen and understand their point of view is the only way for you to understand like what their goal is, and kind of try to understand like, well, why did you want to be promoted? You know, and you know, maybe they're having financial difficulties and they needed a raise, or they're looking at career growth and they feel like they're, you know, falling behind in their career path. But then looking at reality, so something I've faced here at GitLab, and I think most people can relate, is there's so much information and things move so fast that there are oftentimes announcements made or things happening that impact my job that I'm not aware of immediately. You know, especially being in security, like a very small product decision or engineering decision can be impactful in what I say to a customer. And our culture is very different than anywhere I've been, you know, where, you know, it's not like a central repository of everything. And that's why we're able to be so competitive, because we move so fast. Maybe just sharing resources can help inform their reality. Maybe there was an announcement made about why a department or a team or even us as a company are doing something a certain way, and that impacted why they weren't promoted. And that could, you know, really derail things right there, just sharing that. But then like looking at options at other employers before, I've been places where I've been in the situation and the person was just having a hard personal time and didn't know there was an employee assistance program or what options the employer offered. And so sometimes it can be helpful to share those resources and be like, oh, you know what? I totally feel that, but like, you know, we've got this going on or we've got that going on. Maybe they're upset because they had a really big project they worked on and they felt like they deserved a promotion. You know, maybe they don't know that we have a discretionary bonus program and that would have satisfied them. There's a lot of things there. And then the way forward with a peer, it's like a really personal decision that they're going to have to make for themselves. But we can provide support by, recommending those resources or pointing them to things. And sometimes, as was brought up earlier, maybe it's a really emotional thing. They're just having a reaction. Sometimes just listening helps and not being judgmental or making them feel like, it's their fault.
Awesome points. Great job. I probably should have said this earlier. I put peer in the scenarios because I didn't want anyone to think they had to be a manager of someone to like coach them. So yeah, that's a great call out on peer. But yeah, that's why I put peer instead of like your team member or something. Group 2, Haley, do you want to share?
Yes, yeah. And I like what you said about the peer things. That was the first thing we all said. And then I think you start to think about, oh yeah, you don't have to necessarily be a manager to coach someone. When people come to you for things, you can apply this. So I think we started just like not rambling, but going off with all of the questions that we would ask and starting to put those into where they fit in the grow model. So for G, it was, some of the things was, if we want to identify the goal, we need to identify their intention coming into it. Oh, sorry, we picked the first one, the promotion one, which I think is very, very common. And I think topical right now for a lot of teams with views coming up. So those questions were, where do you want to be? What does success mean for you? And what was your intention behind applying? Because that can sort of help us identify a goal that is what they can do maybe instead if they didn't get that promotion, right? Like I think in this coaching model, we talked a lot about what else they can do and helping them understand what they really want out of their job, where they are now. And then for the reality, some of those questions were, what was the feedback that you got from your manager? Because I think at GitLab, we do a good job of providing that. And then kind of going through that with them to review, were there things that you agreed with or things you didn't, or things that didn't or did make sense, kind of trying to identify their strengths within that and where to work on. And I think another thing we talked a lot about in the reality piece was also the emotional side of it, right? The empathic side of it, of thinking about like, you're probably disappointed or upset, and these are normal feelings, and let's have a very honest conversation, level setting, and that's really important in being able to discuss the reality, which then starts to open up options and then kind of seeing a way forward. Did I miss anything really key? I didn't really go into a lot of the options of way forward because we were just kind of having a conversation about all the things we could be asking. And I think that was really the most valuable for takeaway for our team, unless anyone else wants to.
I think you hit it.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. Sophie, do you want to, sorry, I'm kind of buzzing through because we're over time. Sophie, do you want to share?
Good. Yeah, I'll go quick. So we had scenario 1 as well. And we kind of focused on how that person would probably feels after not getting the promotion. So the goals were just asking how they're feeling, kind of how did they come to the conclusion that they want to leave GitLab. So then the reality, just asking what the current situation is, how they got there, how they feel like they did during like the interview process, the options, seeing if there's any areas for improvement, or even is there something different in terms of like a different role at the company, different projects that they can focus on instead. And then ways forward, we also discussed that the way forward may not be at GitLab, and that's okay. And as a coach, you're not trying to get them to stay at a specific company. You're really just trying to coach them to get to their goals. So as a coach, what can you do to help support them? Is there anybody that you can like have them meet with to discuss further their options and not just hold them to staying at GitLab?
Awesome, great points. Thank you. Awesome, well, thank you everyone. You all had really great responses, and I hope you enjoyed the conversations you had with your groups. The only additional thing I have is we do have a feedback form. It's under the question section on the agenda. If y'all could go in and fill that out about how you thought the session was. I'd also appreciate feedback on how you thought the length of time was in the breakout rooms. So if you could give feedback on that specifically, that'd be awesome. Yes, thank you for sharing it in the chat here, Josh. But does anyone have any questions? I know we're 4 minutes over, but anyone have any questions that you would like answered before we wrap up? All right. Awesome. Well, if you think of anything, always feel free to reach out to the Learning and Development team. We do have a Learning and Development Slack channel. But thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to be here. And we will have some more live learning sessions in 2021. So we hope to see you there.